Welcome back to episode 61 of Blurred Summits. Today we're joined by Edwin. We're going to kind of talk about things that he's been experiencing his past year with photography school, investing, and things of all that sort. So Edwin, we know in kind of high school you got super into photography. So how did you get into that, and what are some of the major things that you learned from it?
Yeah, so I got into photography through my dad. You know, he's a big traveling person, and he always had a camera with him whenever he goes to like Africa, like Mongolia, like Tibet and all that. So like this one summer I asked, that was I think 17, when I was 16, I asked him like, can I get a camera for my birthday? And then he said, yeah, I'll get you a camera and let's see what you can do with it. And then that's basically where it started. You know, I started taking pictures with it, like started, you know, doing photo shoots with friends. And more specifically, I really like shooting portraits. Like, I'm a big portraits guy because I love working with models. I love connecting with people. I love learning about their life stories, where they come from, like, you know, and then creating something very artsy, very like, you know, filled with emotion, like some kind of like, you know, storytelling pictures at the end.
Yeah.
So that's the story. Yeah, that's how it started. And then things I learned with it would probably be how to overcome rejection, like the fear of rejection, the fear of taking initiatives, and know my self-worth. That's definitely
awesome.
one thing I learned.
So do you think so what was it like, apart from just like the photography itself, was there something with like the connections that really makes you enjoy photography more than just it being photography itself? Is there something apart, like 100%. under the sea level, that makes it way more interesting than what it might appear from the outside?
So yeah, that relates to like who I am as a person. I'm a big, you know, social person. I'm an extrovert. I love meeting new people. I love talking to people. I love, again, making new friends. Like, hey, I'm from Hong Kong. Like, oh, I love doing that. I was like, oh, you're from like somewhere else. Oh, that's crazy. Like, you know, like, tell me about that. Like, tell me something about that. So that's why I love specifically portraits, because in a photo shoot, like when you shoot portraits, you need a model and you as a photographer, right? Just yourself is not like possible. You need a team to make it work. That's why I think like shooting portraits, it's more like interesting. It's more lively compared to like shooting, you know, environmental pictures, right? Or like more like just mountains, right?
Yeah, I feel like you can also tell like a much better story through having pictures with people in it than if it's just the environment, right? Like,
with pictures, like with human pictures, I feel like they can tell more story. They can show more emotion, because naturally we're like, you know, we see human like heads, like faces every day. Like you can kind of tell like what's the story behind, right? So that's why I love shooting portraits. Because you just meet new people and like make connections and learn about other people and learn more about other people.
And obviously, if people have been following you and stuff, they can see that you're like extremely passionate about photography, right? So like, how does one go about trying to find what their true passions are, right? Like through your experience, how did you kind of go about finding that? I know you talked about your dad and things like that, but how could you really tell it was your true passion and the kind of the path you took going down there?
Yeah, so for sure. I think one thing that people need to do, or at least what I did to find what my passion is to really go out, take the first step. This sounds as cheesy as it gets, but it's really how I did it. You got to take the first step. No matter, the more important thing is no matter what people say about that. Like often when you try new things, people are going to be like, what are you doing? Like, you know, like, you sure this is what you want to do? Like, you know, like the opinion often really shatters your dream, like your passion, like your motivation, right? And then you like other people's opinions start setting into my head, at least into my head. And you know, so that was one thing I learned, to really not care about what people say. So let me give you an example, right? Back in high school, I was still searching my passion too. You know, I was kind of like, oh, maybe it's photography, maybe it's not. That's actually why, you know, I tried out for rugby, right? Back in grade 12. You know, like, you remember we played rugby at the same team, right? Word. Like, you know, that was my first year playing rugby. You know, I know what rugby is. I've watched rugby before. I've never played it before though. Did I expect people to like chirp me or like, say like, oh, like look at this guy like getting benched. Like, yeah, of course, it's my first year playing, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't care. I didn't care what people said like about me. Like, oh, look at this guy. It's not getting game time, right? Because for me, that was such a big through, like such a big breakthrough, right?
Yeah.
Like, I proved to myself that I had the guts to do it, to try this out without getting caring what other people say.
Well, yeah, I think just taking that first step and take like the hardest part is taking that first step of willing to be like, put yourself out there, put your name on whatever you're doing and say, hey, I want to do my best.
Exactly.
And as long as you're doing your best, then people kind of have to respect you for what you're doing, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So after that season, I felt great, even though I didn't play, like I didn't start. Like I was like on the bench most of the time. I felt great because I had the guts to do something and try it out, right? So lesson learned after that was rugby is not my thing. It was very fun, but it's not my thing. And I proved to myself that I had the guts to do it, like to try something out without despite of others' opinion, So first step is always the hardest. The first step is always the hardest for me,
sure,
at least. But once I go past that, my confidence grows, like I would say, quite quickly. Like, this is an example too. Doing this podcast, I've never gone into a podcast to talk before, but when you hit me up, like the opportunity showed up and right in front of my face, I had to take it because I want to overcome this fear. I want to get used to, get comfortable with discomfort. So, like after this, I can tell myself, oh, I've done this before. That's nothing to scared of. So,
I think it's awesome. Like going out and taking risks is kind of one of those things that you have to do to find your passions, right? Yeah. Like for me, kind of one of those things for me is, oddly enough, is the game of chess. Super weird. I kind of judgmental about it a bit, like getting into it. People are like, oh, that's kind of dumb. Why chess? You take that first step, you start doing it. It's like, hey, it's something you enjoy. So why not do it, right?
If you enjoy doing it, like that's all that matters. You don't want to be like influenced by other people's opinion,
Yeah, I think it's like the barrier for entry is always seems so high for everything new.
Exactly.
That especially for all these things that you're trying out, it's if you can break through that first barrier, then you can really truly figure out if it's something for you or not, right?
Right.
And I think then there's obviously other challenges that will come with it and things like that. Right. But then you just take those at face value. Like with photography and like social media, right? Since that's kind of what your thing is. What type of challenges was it that you faced once you got through that barrier that you didn't really expect, since it is pretty much you're putting yourself out there for the world to see kind of your work, right?
Right. So like you're wondering what other challenges that I did not expect to come after.
Yeah.
This has like does not really relate to photography, but I found out that I'm a big multitasker.
Okay. Yeah.
And I often plan too far ahead. Like I did not expect to find out about this about myself, but like only until I get into photography, I found that like I often worry about it too much. I try to tackle things all at the same time.
Okay.
So this is actually one thing I want to learn this year is to focus on one thing at a time. I worry way too much, so it puts me in a constant state of worry that like it's very like non-productive. It's really like bad for mental health. I often worry like when will problems come up, if they will come up, and how am I gonna tackle them, right? But often at the end, they don't show up at all. Life
I mean, obviously, it is good to be proactive, but obviously, does come a point where it's like you're just then, I guess, is it paralyzing yourself to where you're focusing so far on the future you can't really focus on the now?
Yeah, so I'm learning how to really tackle problems as they come up rather than planning if they will come up, which is really it drains my energy.
Yeah, so for sure.
That's what I'm trying to learn, like master.
But I guess when you're doing all these things that are self-driven, right, like photography and stuff, it's kind of hard for these not to be in the back of your head, which I totally understand, right? Because it's like don't have a boss that's kind of thinking about these while you're doing the work. You kind of have to think about the work, think about all the problems that you could arise from and go from there. So I think that is, it is an actual completely reasonable problem to come about that I think lots of people also experience, but they don't realize it until it hits them, right?
Right. Yeah.
So how have you started to work to overcome that challenge, or is it still something that you're still trying to figure out in the moment right now?
It's not something I'm trying to figure out right now, but working on it. So I have like a table, like goals I want to hit. Yeah. I write them out and I set like a time. I want to finish. Let's say I want to finish this book by the end of summer.
Yeah.
right? Like what date, what time, and what have you learned from it? So I set goals for myself. It's pretty straightforward, and then one thing at a time, right? I often overcrowd my to-do list with 10, 20 items. So at the end, I start all of them, but I've achieved little to none because I can't focus on every one of them. I want to do all of them at the same time. So I got to learn how to really find my priorities. So one of my priorities is to finish that book, right?
Yeah.
And I pick, let's say, 2 to 3 most important goals I would like to achieve within a certain amount of time, and then absolutely focus on those three things, and then ignore everything else. Finish those three first, one by one.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
That's a move, yeah.
And I think we actually did talk about that on a previous podcast as well, where it is
nice.
Where you slim it down to those, I think, top 2 or 3 most important things to do in a day, in a week, whatever your timeline is to be. Then you can put obviously all your energy into that instead of spreading yourself thin over this wide batch of ideas. Because obviously, if you're trying to do that where you are doing a lot of things at once, it does appear as though you're being productive, but then at the end of the day, you're not getting as much done, right? But
I agree. I
think it is, that's a big step, is trying to narrow down your priorities.
Exactly.
Especially living in the now, right? It's like, what are the things that I'll focus on tomorrow, this week, right? Instead of focusing, I have this big task 2 months from now.
Exactly.
Obviously, it will be a big deal in 2 months from now.
Worry about that later.
Exactly. Worry about the things that impact you now.
Exactly. Exactly. My old me would have started stressing out like, oh, it's coming in 2 months. And then that often crowds out things that I need to focus rather right now. Right. And those are more important things.
And I think, that's definitely a big challenge that I guarantee a lot of people have a challenge with, especially in university and things like that. When you're taking multiple classes,
exactly,
you get caught up. You can get easily caught up on the big midterms that you have a month from now, where you have these small assignments that probably have just as much influence on your grade as the midterm, and they just lose their focus. So living in the now, I think, is definitely a big thing. Obviously, clearing down what you actually need to get done is super major, right?
Yeah,
and I know, and then so you did touch on this kind of momentarily ago, like your confidence, right? Like, through high school, I always viewed you as a super confident guy.
Thank you.
Or at least that's the type of persona you gave off. So why do you think confidence is so important for someone? And kind of what did you do to provide yourself with this persona that you gave off of this confidence?
Yeah. So confidence is important because it gave me opportunities that I didn't think I would have get. Or it brought me to places that I don't think I would have reached. For example, would be like, because of confidence, I got a lot of opportunities to work with models, content creators, videographers, other photographers, other more like creative people in the industry, people that are better at photography than me. I got to learn from them. I got to work with them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I got to shoot with a friend's like clothing brand. I've never done
that's
that
sick.
before.
That's so awesome. Yeah.
But that was such a great experience, right? All because I had the confidence to reach out to them first and ask, right? So that kind of relates to how do I do it? As cheesy as it sounds like, get used to discomfort, right? Get used to discomfort through practice.
So so what type of things would you do that like kind of push, like, are you just trying to push your comfort zones in different areas of life?
So first of all, like, it's not come in a day. It takes time, like months, years to get to this, but I practice taking initiatives, sending the first message to my friend's clothing brand, other models that I want to work with, that I want to collaborate with. Hey, I really like your work. Like, this is what I do. Like, would you be interested into working together and create something nice, something fun? I put myself into social settings, like events that it's slightly uncomfortable. And then I make myself get used to approaching other individuals and introduce myself. Hey, I'm Edwin. I do this. Like, I sort of work. I really love it, And this podcast too, like, this is an example. Right? Again, I've never done this before, but that's exactly why I want to do it. Because after this, I can tell myself, hey, that wasn't that bad. I've done this before. So when other podcast opportunities come up in the future, right, I can tell myself, I've done this before. I can do it. So through practice, right, you got to take the first step.
So do you think people are a lot more approachable than they may seem over like the internet or in person? Or is it like, is the barrier for entry to talk to people, it appears more scary than it actually is?
exactly. Yeah. I think it's more scary. I can't say like on the internet, but for like in real life, it's
Yeah.
definitely, it seems harder than it thinks, but it's actually easier than you think. Once you have the confidence to just ask, of course, sometimes rejection or like awkward moments come up, but
Hmm.
that's like part of the lesson, right? But like most of the people that
Yeah.
I've approached, like they're, if you if you introduce yourself nicely, you're not like a creep, right? You're
Yeah.
like, hey, this is what I do. Like, I would also like really like to work. Like, would you like to work together in the future? Usually it works like 99.9%. And then they say, oh yeah, like thanks for asking, right? Because most often like people um want to be approached, I feel like, or like opportunities are like right there. It's waiting
Yeah.
for you to grab it, right? Because if you never ask, you don't know. But
Yeah.
once
You'll
you
never know if
ask,
they're even looking, right?
exactly. Like maybe they want to work with you, but they're just like a little bit scared to like approach you, right?
Hmm.
So you can be the first person to proactively to go out and grab that opportunity for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's super awesome. And do you think like, so with these kind of photography deals and kind of things you work with, would you say they're kind of like these symbiotic relationships where you're both getting something positive out of it? Or is it kind of one person is getting more out of the other
Oh
or
yeah.
vice versa?
It
Since, yeah, I'm not
depends.
sure how many people are too familiar with kind of the photography scene like that.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
kind of
It
dive into
depends.
that.
It depends, right? So often, like, if it's like if somebody asks me to do a photo shoot and I don't know
Hmm.
them, they're just like a normal individual, then I would charge them, right?
Yeah.
Because they could be like normal person that just needs like a couple of photo shoot, right?
Yeah.
And that might not exactly be what I'm looking for.
Hmm.
So in this situation, when I charge them, I get the monetary benefits. I get the
Yeah.
monetary gains, but for them, they get the picture, right?
Yeah. I think that
But
makes a lot of sense.
if I want to hit somebody up that like I think it's like a bigger model than me, right? Like a bigger
Hmm.
person, like they have more influence, more followers. They are more experienced in this, right? Often like either I would call it like a collaboration
Yeah.
or they charge me, but usually it's like a mutual thing, right? So I call it
Yeah, for
collaboration.
sure.
So I get the creative side or like the ideas like of and the posing skills of this model, right? This more experienced person,
Yeah.
and she gets the photos. So
Yeah,
so
I
it really
think
depends on like who you hit up, like a target, right?
I think it's super interesting, but even in like the monetary one, it is still sort of that relationship where each person is getting positive out of that
Yeah,
interaction, I
yeah.
think,
So
right?
yeah, it's just basically a service, and I say
Yeah.
like it's there's like like I'm glad you brought that up because for me at least, and like for some other friends that like in the industry, we often uh, found ourselves in this like dilemma where are you chasing after the money or are you
Hmm.
chasing after genuine creativity, genuine like ideas that you want to achieve,
Yeah.
right? It's often very tempting to do photo shoots that you get paid because it's
Hmm.
money, and then you
Yeah.
can, everybody wants money, right?
Hmm.
But are you is this person that you're shooting with like have the experience or have the ability to um, make what you envisioned come true? Not
Yeah.
necessarily. So
Hmm.
so often we gotta choose like one way or another, or like we often need to like balance uh like our like where we're heading to. Like we don't want to
Yeah.
get crowded out by like money thoughts in our head. Like sometimes you want to do like a for free shoot, but you want to work with somebody that's more skilled than you, and you learn
Yeah.
from that. So
And
yeah,
I think that does make a lot of sense, right? Because to really grow, I think you do kind
yeah,
of have to reach up to those people that maybe are like just that little bit bigger than you, that are
yeah,
willing to give you that opportunity with like your
exactly,
artistic
yeah.
side to let them shoot, right? And I think that leads back into the confidence thing where it is just asking those people for the opportunity to take some pictures with
Exactly.
them, right?
And like one of the example for like personal example would be like shooting with my friend's clothing brand.
Hmm.
It was a startup. He reached out to me. He said like, hey, I really like your work one day, right? And then
Hmm.
I kind of, checked him out, like look at his account. I was like, oh, I've never worked with a clothing brand before.
Hmm.
So it might be a good thing to like kind of like make like keep connecting with them and talk about like, oh, what do you do? Like, I really like, I'm genuinely interested in what you do. Like,
Yeah.
would it be possible to make something up together? Like, come up with something together. And then that's how
Yeah.
it started. And then we became friends, like, and then he was like, hey, like, I need a photographer. And then like, would you like to like do a photo shoot for us? And I said yes right away. I've never
Yeah.
done
That's
that
so
before.
awesome. Yeah.
I've never led a studio photo shoot before,
Okay.
but
Oh, so it was
that's
in a studio. So
yeah, it was a
it was
studio.
super
Yeah, I've never
professional
done
then.
that
Oh, that's
before.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, so you know, I was like learning as I did it, but it was such a great experience. It was such a great experience, and I can't appreciate them enough.
So reaching out to kind of these bigger creators and things, do you still fear that rejection that kind of comes with hitting them up, or have you worked to overcome this fear that kind of comes about reaching out to these different creators you don't necessarily know?
Yeah. So when I first started, definitely the fear of getting rejected, somebody saying no to you because you just started, right? You know, they don't know like what you're doing. Like you only got like a couple hundred, 1,000 followers, right? So they don't know what you're doing. And yeah, the fear was definitely there. But once you get used to it, you're not scared anymore for the rejection of, oh, like, no, I'm sorry. I don't think I'm really looking for a photo shoot right now. And then you need to understand that there's still thousands of opportunity out there, or not like more, like millions, as long as you ask. Because you don't know if it's there or not. Like, it's not a what if. Like, you want to go find out if it's if or if not, right? Rather than just kind of like thinking. That's pretty like passive. You would rather, like, I would rather go out and act, like, make sure that like, oh, well, the opportunity is not here. All right, I'm gonna move on to somewhere that I think there's gonna be more opportunities.
Right? So I think that's awesome.
So once you get used to it, to reach out, be the first person to reach out, be the first person to introduce yourself in social settings and events, the fear won't be there anymore. I think it's very similar to you, like, doing podcasts. Like, would you say there's probably like some fear at the beginning?
Well, for like doing the podcast itself, probably the first little while we had that challenge where it's kind of the fear putting ourselves out there. And now we got used to it. Now our next step is reaching out to, we're trying to get some, hopefully down the line, some TEDx speakers and things on here.
That'd be amazing.
Kind of show their lifestyles and stuff. And obviously that is sort of that thing that you're talking about, right? Reaching out to these bigger names. Obviously, most likely we'll get a lot of no's, but it's kind of getting that, who is willing to take that opportunity and come talk to us, give us the chance, right? And hopefully they'll take advantage of that, right? So kind of what tips would you give to those people who are still struggling from the fear of denial or rejection? And how would they go about it? Or is it just doing it as often as you can and then getting used to that rejection?
Yeah, that would be my take. Personally, I don't think there's like any other way to, like, maybe there are other ways, but for me, I found it the most effective to really face your fear directly. Like, you don't want to, at least for me, I didn't want to go around it because I didn't found that as effective. That was the most effective. The most effective way was just really straight up to get used to asking people, like, would you like to work together? Shoot the first message first. Obviously prepare your message, right? Like, prepare like what you want to talk about first, not just like a hi, I like your stuff. Like, I'm not
so here, this is what I want to do. This is what my plan is, right?
Exactly. I have idea, like, a position. If I want to work with some company, I have like a, like a message that, like, hey, I really like this work, like, blah, blah, blah. I've been doing this for a while. Like, this is something I feel like we can join together, So obviously be prepared, but like, really it comes from habit. It comes from practice, for me at least. So just, get used to, doing that. Like, once you get used to it, like, it starts like rolling like very quickly. So.
Yeah, I think with a lot of things, it's really all about learning from doing, right? And that's what the reaching out for those interviews is.
Yeah.
Because obviously you can't always just rely on, hey, there's this tip where you have to do this one little thing.
Yeah.
And then you'll lose that feeling, right? When it's a thing in your gut and in your heart where it's just a natural fear, you just got to keep fighting before that fear then becomes basically something you want, you crave for that thing, right? It's like with working out, people are like, oh, working out's so scary, it's hard.
Yeah.
You break through that barrier, you get going on it, and then you crave that soreness, that energy, that whatever it is that kind of comes with it, right? It's funny though how so many people can turn fears into passions, into things that they can't live without doing. You just need to break through it and start doing it, right?
Yeah, I think that's the best way to build confidence. Like, I've heard this from a YouTuber that, like, the best way to build confidence at something is to start doing it. Because I don't, like, just me, like, thinking and practicing in my head is gonna go nowhere until you really put your knowledge into use, right? If you just keep thinking like, oh, I wish, or oh, I should have, I should have talked to them first, I should have introduced myself first, I should have sent the first message and asked if they would like to collaborate. That's not enough. It's not gonna go anywhere. Like, you should do it, like, right away. Like send the message. Like, don't wait. Like, now do it.
Right? Living in the past or living It's a very easy thing, I think, an easy trap to fall into, right? 'Cause it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I can look back and see, oh, I could have done that better. I
Right.
could have done this better. But then I feel like there's always that question of, why didn't you do that better then, right? Like if you
Yeah.
know in your heart that there is this way to do things
Right.
and you just don't choose to do it, I don't know. It seems kind of odd to me, but
Yeah.
it's definitely something you can
I agree.
overcome, where you just say, hey,
For sure.
I need to
Yeah.
live in the now, put myself out there, take those risks,
Yeah.
live, and then just live without those regrets, right? And
Yeah.
is that
I
what
was
you
like
do?
that,
Do you personally try to do that nowadays, where you now just try to live without regret and just kind of do things, make the most out of every day? Or is there still kind of this thing where you kind of look back on yourself and be like, oh, there's some things you wish you kind of did? I mean, everyone still does have those moments, obviously, but
Yeah, for sure. I had moments of, like, I wish I'd done that. I would have done that,
mhm.
but not. I wouldn't say not in terms of in the aspects of reaching out. Because
Okay.
I definitely like took my chances. I definitely understood that if I didn't do that, I would be regretting.
Mhm.
So yeah, so far, like I have no regrets. Right? Like I really
That's awesome.
saw
Yeah.
opportunity and I took it. I have regrets on other things, but like in terms of opportunity that I could have grabbed, I
Mhm.
definitely did try to grab it in the past.
That's
So,
awesome. Yeah. It's always nice to go after it, right?
like again, like this is an example. Like when you first hit me up, I had to do
Mhm.
it right away. I want to overcome this fear. Like I want to get used
Mhm.
to it because podcast is the new thing. Like
Yeah.
everybody's doing podcasts.
Yeah.
Right? It's not gonna be like, for me, it's not gonna be helpful if I'm not scared of podcasts. Right? It's the new
Mhm.
biggest thing. Like you gotta get used to it. So
Yeah.
this is definitely a good start, and I wish I will continue to live this way. Like if I see opportunity, I'll try to grab it.
Mhm. Yeah. I think that's an
At,
awesome way to do
at
things.
least, like even if it's not your opportunity, I
Mhm.
want to know it's not mine, and I can move on. I
Yeah.
don't want to
Right.
live with like a what if. Like it's
It's
just
always hard to judge things. You can't really judge things by the cover, right? Like
exactly.
just by on the outside perspective, I've always thought if I want to try something new or I want to judge something, I always feel like I have had to need to do, or I needed to do it before I could officially judge it and say, this is my decision on this thing.
Right.
Because from the outside, something could look super boring and uninteresting. And then you step into it and you do it and it's something you absolutely love, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So with kind of going off of that, with kind of your photography and that side of things, how long did it take for you to completely buy into this journey that you wanted to go down, right? Like with photography, was it did you slowly kind of walk into the deep end of it, or was it just jump in the deep end and go all out with photography?
Well, I would say I'm not like do I see myself doing this like full time for the rest of my life? I don't. But do I see
Yeah.
it part time with something else? Yes, I definitely do see it.
Awesome. Yeah.
So it's not like a 100% passion, but it's definitely like a 70%, like 75, like a
Well,
good,
yeah,
like
as in like
passion.
you want to take as much time as you kind of have into it. Like for us,
Exactly.
with the guys on the podcast with this, we're like, or speaking for myself since no one else is really here, but we felt like when we started this, you kind of had to like buy into the idea, right? And if you're not really buying into an idea and spending a lot of time doing something, then it really kind of poses the question of, is this really worth my time if you're not going all in, right?
So when I'm doing this, I'm definitely putting like 100% effort. Right?
Yeah.
But like us in like how much time would this take out of my life? I only see it as like maybe like 70, like 60%. Because I have other passions too, as strong as this one, like investing and maybe like some other creative industry like work in the future. So I want to like blend them in together. But going back to your question, which was like you were asking how that, like, what's the question again? Sorry.
I guess it was like how did you or how long did it take for you to kind of completely buy into the idea of photography? Yeah.
So it took me, I would say, at least like 4 years to get to like where I'm at right now. I was very scared of other people's critics, like, oh, like photography, oh, whatever you say, like, oh, like a camera guy, right? Like, that was all around my head back in like the first couple of years.
Okay.
But when I first started, I was pretty scared of like the thing. Like, you want to think of my work, you know. But I started getting recognition for my work, around like grade 12. I started in grade 11,
Yeah.
right? On
Okay.
grade 12.
Yeah.
I was doing the yearbook for Churchill.
Mm-hmm.
The yearbook like organization, like the teachers, like Miss Lou, if you remember who that is.
Yeah.
So she was like the head of the like for the yearbook group, right? And then she was like,
Mm-hmm.
I really like your work. You should start like, can you teach people in church like during lunchtime? Can you like
Oh, that's
I'll
awesome.
give you my classroom. Like, can you lead the photography club, right?
Yeah, that's so
But,
sick. Actually,
I
that's awesome.
yeah, that was one of the what ifs that I did not take because I was not confident in my work yet. But
Okay.
everybody kept telling me that like you're really good at photography. Like you should, come and like
Mm-hmm.
just teach other people. But then I was like, nah, I'm not there yet. Sorry, I don't think I'm confident enough. But but after that, like I should have took it because I realized like, people do recognize my work. They like my work.
Mm-hmm.
And then after grade 12, um, I kind of my work, my confidence for photography grow like pretty fast after I moved to
Mm-hmm.
Vancouver after high school. Like the the creative industry here is way bigger than Calgary.
Okay. Yeah, I
So
think that,
so a
especially with the
lot of
big film industry and stuff, that's definitely
exactly
way more
exactly a
going
lot of
on
like
there as well.
Netflix film, a lot of like creative industry, like a lot of media creating content creating industries here. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of like-minded people, like-minded people here,
Yeah.
So when I first like came into contact with that, it really pushed me to like, all right, you know what, opportunities right here. It's up to you if you stop caring, like if you're gonna still care or stop caring about what other people say. You really
Mm-hmm.
should go out and grab it. So that was around like my third, fourth year of the whole journey. And
Yeah.
that's where I really start to get into it, right? I don't care about what people say. Like I started getting opportunities. Like, you know, once you get those outside of your head, it's really like, it's gonna go quick. It's gonna start
Mm-hmm.
rolling. So
So you kind of talked
yeah,
about, yeah, moving out to Vancouver, being around a lot of like-minded people. Do
yeah.
you feel like you kind of like, for anyone to really push themselves in kind of an area, do they need to be around like-minded people, or can they do things by themselves?
Yeah, for sure. You can do things by yourself, but it's going to be very hard. Definitely harder than without like-minded people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like with like-minded people, it's absolutely important to surround yourself with like-minded true friends.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they push you, they motivate you, honestly, right? I'm surrounded by a lot of like-minded people right now that we often motivate each other. You know, we often try to one up each other, but
Yeah.
not in a way that like we try to beat down the other person.
It's like a kind of like a friendly competition sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So like it's genuine motivation when they try to one up each other. Oh, like I learned how to make this video. Like I produced like
Mm-hmm.
this sick video for this company. Then
Mm-hmm.
I naturally would want to work harder and be
Yeah.
where they at right now. Because
Yeah.
like that's how it goes. Like so, you know, like for me at least, I know I've found true friends where I can kind of one up each other without any
Mm-hmm.
jealousy, like pure motivation, pure like admire, right?
Mm-hmm.
So admiration. So yeah, like that's how I know like I have true friends, like super good friends right now.
Yeah, I think that is super important. Even in things like school, extracurriculars like photography, being around those like-minded people pushes everyone in that friend group. I mean, as long as it's not toxic, it pushes
Yeah,
everyone to be a better version of who they truly are, right?
exactly. Yeah,
It not only lifts one person, it brings everyone in that
exactly.
group up better and makes
And
everyone much better than where they would have been
yeah,
without them.
yeah. And I really like your question. It's really important to have like-minded friends. Again, like I wouldn't say your friends can break you or make you or break you, but for me at least, they have great influence on me.
Hmm.
I
Yeah, I
I
definitely
think
agree with that.
it shows who you are as a person. You're naturally, I feel like as humans, we're naturally tended to attract like-minded people, right? If you
Hmm.
like to talk, if you like hockey, then you're naturally going to hang out with hockey buddies that likes
Yeah.
to talk about hockey, likes to watch, play hockey, right? If you're
Hmm.
into business, making money, like starting entrepreneurship, then you're obviously going to be attracted to those kind of people.
Hmm.
So it's really important to have like-minded friends and push yourself to where you want to be at. Yeah.
So do you think part of that, like being around like-minded people, is going out and meeting a lot of random new people? So then you can find people that have like-minded situations, or is it a more so relying
No,
on kind of fate to bring you towards those
yeah.
people?
I wouldn't say it's neither. I wouldn't say it's fully rely on like fate because I often kind of make my own opportunities.
Hmm.
Like but I wouldn't really say it's a random group of people either. Like, it's like like they're gonna be related to a certain degree, because that's how I met all my like content creator friends, like model friends from like a events, right?
Okay.
So people
Yeah.
who go to those events are obviously going to be like interested in making YouTube videos, photography, like modeling, right? So it's still gonna be like related
Okay.
in a sense, but you don't know like how like-minded, like exactly to a degree, right? Like with you.
Yeah.
So I would say start from there, like going to clubs, events, activities that that you like to do, and then go
Okay.
from there and search out like, oh, there's gonna be, oh, this person's like, we both love doing this
Mm-hmm.
in this sort of fashion, oh, in that
Yeah.
fashion, like so yeah.
So then does that then come down to doing kind of like the old school networking thing that you might see a lot of the business type people going to, like going to these events where everyone like-minded people come together and meeting people that way and building like proper industry connections with those around you then?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's the way to go, I would say. But I often keep my mind like clear, like, okay, this is like, who are like good friends, who are just friends for there for opportunities. Like often, like I try not to be like super, shallow. Like I don't like that. I try to be very genuine to myself. I'm not here just to try to take an opportunity out of you.
Yeah.
Like I'm here because I genuinely really like what you're doing, and I would love to learn how you do it. I would love to be like part of the experience of that. I would like to grow my like my skill set vault. Like I want to learn how to do that. So yeah.
Well, yeah, I think having those worthwhile friendships obviously is much better than those shallow ones, right? Because if you're both just trying to get things out of each other, I think in those types of situations, you're going to make each other worse than actually make each other better. And
so I'm often very like, careful or aware of who I'm hanging out with. I often try to be as truthful to myself as I can.
And I think,
I often try to keep like truthful friends around, and I'm super lucky that I can do that right now.
Yeah, I think that's super awesome, especially with how COVID kind of happened, right? If you have that tight group of friends around you, then everyone could kind of band together and fight through this brutal year and make it out on the other side pretty well, right? I don't know,
friends are very important.
Yeah. So do you feel like you had that kind of group of friends that allow you to fight through this past year? I know with everyone it's been super tough. Has your friend group allowed you to fight through it and come out the other side of this a lot better than you went into it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Again, like the friends I have around me right now allow me to fit more than what you said. More than just like not only photography, but a lot of like other things in life that they support me, they motivate me. They help like carry my like the weight of like things that I worry about. They give me opinions, how to guide them. But most importantly, sometimes like I think we all make mistakes in life. Yeah. And they're the ones who tell me like, no, I don't think that's right, Edwin. They remind me that like if I'm doing something wrong, obviously they tell me that that's wrong. I don't think you should do it. So yeah, like.
But I think having your friends hold you accountable though, I think is that's super good to have people that are able to be truthful with you, and you're able to take on their criticisms that they have for you and not take them personally, but take them in the way where it's like, look, they're just trying to help me out, right? They're just trying to stop me from making the same mistakes.
That's what I think true friends will do. Like they tell you, they are there during your lows, but they celebrate you during your highs, right? So they also tell you when you're wrong, when you're obviously very wrong. Like they also carry like weights for you. Like they support you, they motivate you, right? So that's with friends like that, like definitely COVID was not as hard as it is because I had friends like that, like super lucky,
Yeah, I think that's great that you had those type of connections there, right? Like I think it was brutal and everyone went through the same type of stuff, but everyone had different challenges they faced throughout that year. And it's just how people overcome it is just so different. Yeah. So we'll kind of switch a bit gears here. I know you'd mentioned that you're kind of getting into investing and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So what are like kind of one or two tips that maybe you would have wished you knew when you got started that you now know?
Yeah, definitely. I would have told my 18-year-old self to think with logic, not emotion. Okay. I spent a lot of stupid money on buying clothes and shoes to present some kind of external image because back in high school, like peer pressure was obviously pretty
Well,
big
yeah,
thing.
back in high school, everyone just was
I
like,
think
hey,
we
I can buy
all
the
like
best clothes, I can do all this stuff, right?
exactly
It
like
wasn't
you want to look
really,
cool.
yeah,
Nobody's want to like look like not cool, right?
yeah,
But I didn't understand that like the things I bought, like shoes, clothes, they depreciate in value like over
hmm
time. So it was not a good investment. So I would have told myself to save those money, put them away in a TFSA account,
hmm
and start investing in some like low, like fertility stocks, like
yeah,
ETFs, like
yeah,
Standard and Poor 500, and then just sit there, just let it sit there, right? Because it
hmm
compounds over time. So that was definitely the thing that I would tell myself to really. That's stupid money. Really think about like if this in the thing that you buy would generate you even more money or less
yeah,
money. For clothes, they definitely like they depreciate pretty quickly, right? Like
yeah,
so or like shoes too. So definitely don't spend stupid money. Like be frugal, definitely.
yeah.
Save them up and then get something that buy something that can generate money in return. For example, stocks. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah, with stocks, I'm a big kind of into the ETFs, mutual fund sort of thing. It's
Yeah.
where it's low risk, especially with people being super busy, right? It's just kind of low risk.
Yeah.
You can leave your money in there for
Yeah.
until you almost retire, and then it'll appreciate.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
it's way better than holding that than cash, because cash also technically depreciates. So putting it in
Exactly.
something that
Yep.
then at least holds its value over the 40, 50
Exactly.
years you don't touch it,
Exactly.
right? And then
Yeah.
come retirement, you'll have this money that you can spend, and you'll be nice with it. It's
Yeah.
something that is, I think a lot of young people maybe don't necessarily realize what they can do, or they go the other way where they go super hardcore into the stock market and do all these risky trades.
Yeah.
Lots of shorts, lots of penny stocks and things, which
Exactly.
is basically gambling with their money, but on the stock market instead of going to the casino, which I'm personally not big on, but I mean, people do it, but I don't know.
Well, like it's their choice, but for me, I'm definitely I think slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what I think, and I really should have. Again, yeah, it goes back. Go back to our previous question. I really should have saved up the money. That like if I did that, I could have much more capital by now.
But then again, right? That's something everyone's young and everyone spends money, but right,
exactly.
And it's something you can't really control. You've got the stuff, so it's you live and you learn, right? At that point, it's like, oh well, it's so what. When you get older, especially back then, it's not as much money as it would if you're doing the same thing when you're in your mid-20s with a big salary, spending it on a bunch of silly stuff, instead of putting it into stocks.
That's one thing I learned, right? Like we all go through that. So now I know that like I don't really care about like what people say about like how I look, like if it's like super trendy clothing, like I don't really care. I just want to save up and put my money into assets that can generate me more return.
Yeah, well, I think it's funny. You look at the world's richest guys; all they wear a collared shirt, they wear like khakis. I mean, all their money. They probably have a $50,000 watch, but that's about it. That's really the only big thing they have. And that appreciates. That's not like clothing.
Yeah.
A fancy watch like that will still appreciate in value since it's such a nice asset, right? So
for sure.
It's really knowing where to put your money and where to kind of keep out when you can.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to do too.
Yeah. And I know you did touch on this a little earlier in the podcast. But what was exactly one skill you wanted to develop over this next year? I know you said kind of worrying less about as many things. Is that kind of the thing you'd want to do?
That's definitely the thing. Worrying like one thing at a time, or tackle things one thing at a time, and avoid multitasking / planning way too far ahead. Like focus on like the problems that are like soon to like come. Like tackle them one at a time. Not if they will or when will they come up. Like that really drained a lot of energy out of my life. Like just kept worrying like, oh, maybe like this Saturday, like, or like no, like just let it happen, or it will not happen at all. So
I think that is that's a super good trait to work on, right? It's forgetting the what ifs and then worrying about the when they kind of arise.
Yeah. And again, like multitasking, I always like to do things multiple times, multiple things at the same time. But at the end, I did not achieve anything at all, little to none. So I might also work on one thing at a time. And then when I'm done with this, then I can be like, all right, now I can move on to the next on the list. So
I think that's great. So last question here is we're going to have a bit of this is kind of a bit of a problem here. So you kind of go on a hike up a mountain, right? And you bring these tools along with you. that kind of help you along the way, like hiking sticks, you wear the good boots, you got some food, right? So now view this climbing this mountain as your life. Kind of what characteristics would you need to help you on this journey to the top of this mountain?
Yeah, that's a really good question, first of all. So I think the main three things that I like to have would be desire, persistence, and then a couple of true friends.
Yeah, I think that's probably some of the, lots of people have come on, even we say this, we have issues coming up with the narrow things, but I think those three things hit the nail on the dot, right? All those things basically say, hey, look, if I have these problems, I will fight through them and continue up this mountain, which I think is insanely important.
So let me may I?
Go ahead. Yeah, let's hear it.
So there's reasons that I think these are the most three important things to bring in a hike. Because first of all, desire is the most important thing. If you don't want it bad enough, you've lost it. Specifically, you've lost it to somebody that wants it more than you. I think that's the most important thing. You really need to want it bad enough that you can literally see yourself acquiring that whatever you want to, whatever you're trying to get, in the future. Right? You really need to want it bad enough. That's the most important thing. And then the second thing is persistency, because I think desire and persistence has to come together. I say pair, as a combo. You can't lack one or another. Because let's say if you have the right kind of desire, you genuinely desire, you're interested in that, is something you're passionate about, but you don't have the persistency, then you're going nowhere in this journey of pursuit, right? Because at the first sight of hardship, you give up already. Yeah. So you're going nowhere. And if it's the other way around, let's say you don't have the right genuine desire, you like this because the money that gives to you, you're not genuinely passionate about it, but you have the persistency, right? So for me, I think that might work in the short run for you, because you are persistency, right? You're trying to overcome the challenges, but you're chasing something that you're not genuine passionate about. You're not genuine, you're desiring about that, right? Yeah,
I think once you get to the summit, there's nothing really worth it there, I guess.
Either you get to a summit and then you be like, oh, this is not what I like. Or in midway, the fire dies down because you realize this is not what I truly am passionate about. So you need both of them, but the most important one is definitely start with a genuine desire for really you sure this is what you want. If this is what you want, then I'm definitely going for it, right? So let me give you an example. I desire, I'm trying to start to invest right now because I don't desire luxury life. I desire to buy my parents a house and give them and myself financial freedom. Right? I'm not choosing nothing. I'm choosing something.
I think that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to I'm not looking for Rolls Royce. I'm not looking for Bentleys. I'm looking for Rolexes. Even if I'm millionaire, I'm just gonna wear khakis and I'll drive a Prius. Seriously. I'm looking for a financial stability and I'm genuinely I genuinely desire about it. I really want it. So fun thing is that to acquire that, I really need to read books. I need to learn about it. Right. I hate reading books the whole life.
Yeah, I mean, reading high school for me ruined reading books. I don't know about you, but for me, it just destroyed it.
But I understand that one of the things I have to overcome is to get used to reading books, right? So I started reading books and I started learning how to deal with numbers, which are both the two things that I hated the most back then. So it's numbers and books. I really So that's what a genuine desire will push you to do, right? Because I really want to buy my parents a house. Right. Yeah. So, and the third last thing is a couple of true friends. Kind of we talked about. You really need you really need a couple of true friends to surround yourself with, to push you, to support you when during your lows, and celebrate with you during your highs, and remind you that hey, I don't think what you're doing is right, but Edwin, you should really think about that, right? So that's the kind of people that I'm super lucky to have around me right now. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think those are three amazing things to have, right? If you have those three together, I almost think someone who has those three is almost unstoppable on whatever they want to do, right? If they can find the path they want to go down, they're unstoppable. What is really going to stop them if they can push through whatever challenges they have? Yeah, it's something they really want, and they've got friends there to stop them from getting cocky about the passions that they're on about.
Yeah. So with that being said, it takes time to acquire those three things. I'm in the journey of acquiring persistency too. Like that kind of similar kind of relates to like the multitasking thing. Like you want to be persistent in one thing and then really like tackle the problem first and then move on to the other, but not like I started this thing, okay, at the first side of hardship, you know what, I'll do the other thing. And then this gets a little bit harder. Okay, you know what, I'll do the other thing. And then I start all these things, but I achieve like none. So I would rather like learn how to, again, like have the genuine desire about one thing and then be persistent about it and then go after it. So,
yeah, I think when you've got those, you're getting to that top of that mountain in record speed with those three. But thank you, Edwin. Really appreciate you coming on today. I thought we talked about some amazing points. Yeah, no, anytime, man. I think that was touched on some really amazing things there. And hopefully maybe get you back sometime in the future down the line here. Yeah. Talk about some more stuff.
Yeah, thanks again for this opportunity. Again, for me to overcome this fear of talking on the internet over a podcast. I've never done this before, but I had to overcome this fear. So really thanks for the opportunity for me to achieve this, you know?
Yeah, you're welcome, man. Everyone's got these challenges, right? And it's all about overcoming them. Well, thank you guys for watching today's episode of Blurred Summits. Please be sure to check us out on YouTube and on all streaming platforms where you can catch our episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you guys next time.